Hello, everyone in the acoustically perfect Amtrak station. My name is Bob McDonough. I am the Administrator for Economic Opportunity for the City of Tampa, and we're here to celebrate a Brownfields grant for the City of Tampa and for the City of Brooksville. I've been involved in the real estate community for a very long time. When I was a real estate broker 30 years ago, if someone talked about a piece of dirt being contaminated, the broker would make the face, the prospective buyer would make the face, they'd walk away. Banks wouldn't lend money on it because they did not want to be on the chain of title. Well, that has changed, and a lot of that change is due to the progressive attitude that the EPA has had. They have really taken great steps in removing the stigma, and they've provided leadership in the cleanup. And what that has done is allowed us to reuse infill sites within our urban core, which again brings vitality to our cities. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce the Regional Administrator, Ms. Gwen Keyes Fleming from the EPA in Washington, D.C.
Good afternoon. How is everybody today? Good, good. Well, I can tell you that I'm thrilled to be here in Tampa. Thank you so much for the invitation. I will pretend that it's just me that you wanted to see as opposed to the money that I am apparently going to be presenting later. But it is good to be back, and I've had the opportunity to meet with Mayor Buckhorn previously, and certainly glad to meet my new friends now from Brooksville. If you would, let me just take care of one kind of protocol business. I do understand that we have some other important folks from some of our congressional offices. We've got someone from Congresswoman Castor's office. Thank you for joining us. And also someone from Senator Nelson's office, Thank you. Please tell the senator that we said hello. Are there any other elected or appointed officials? You gotta understand, I've gotta do my protocol thing, make sure no one's mad at me. Well, thank you again. I am thrilled to be here. It's really a pleasure to be able to come out and celebrate some of the success and good things that we know are going to happen with this money from the Brownfields grant. EPA feels that it's one of our most successful examples of partnership, collaboration, and, truth be told, economic opportunity. Many communities in this region and across the country have benefited from the redevelopment and reuse Brownfields grants that have allowed them to turn around former blighted parts of their community and now making them great economic engines. Whether it's taking abandoned underground storage tanks and properly disposing of them, or cleaning up some of the blighted or abandoned properties, this land can be used in a lot of other effective ways. And certainly we have numerous examples throughout the Southeast, and others even here in Tampa, of successful projects that have resulted in stronger economies and healthier environments for the communities that they serve. I wanted to make sure I let you know on behalf of my immediate boss, Administrator Lisa P. Jackson. She again sends her congratulations. But the Brownfields program is one of her top priorities. She has 7 that she focuses on, and Brownfields helps us address the ones relating to cleaning up our communities, expanding the conversation on environmentalism, because obviously these things work best when you bring others to the table with you, as well as working for environmental justice, because very often the properties that we're looking at are in areas that may have been overburdened or had some disinvestment over time. And if you think about it, the time is now for emphasizing the need to repurpose our lands and strengthen our local economies. There are many communities facing significant challenges as they work to rebuild their own local economy. And taking action to support economic development and community revitalization while also protecting public health and the environment is a long-standing commitment at EPA. And the way that we do it is we make investments to help promote the environmental health and leverage redevelopment and economic growth that can help generate job creation. And we know that's really what we're talking about. Not only are we changing the landscape, but also building it into something that can produce long-term jobs for many of the people in the communities themselves. This program demonstrates a strong commitment that an environmental health and economic vitality really go hand in hand. Since its inception, EPA's Brownfields investments have leveraged more than $18.3 billion in cleanup and redevelopment. So if you think about it, when you think about Brownfields money as seed money, and what that can then be turned into by looking towards public and private partnerships, we here at EPA, through this program and through that collaboration, have been able to create more than 75,000 jobs, both in the private and public sector. It also means that through this program, more than 18,000 properties have been assessed, and more than 700 properties have been cleaned up. So again, we're reaching people where they need it with respect to their wallets, but also with respect to their health. And we certainly don't have to go far, again, to see what success looks like. The City of Tampa has been an excellent grantee and partner with us in the past. Since 1999, Tampa has received 4 grants totaling $1.4 million, and that's not including the money that they'll get today. And since the inception of the Brownfields program, the city has leveraged that little bit of money. Well, it's not a little bit of money. $1.4 million is still a good chunk of money. But the point is, Tampa has been able to leverage that seed money into more than $150 million in public and private funds to benefit this community. Let's give them a hand for that. And in doing so, they've encouraged the redevelopment of over 50 environmentally stigmatized properties on over 25 inner city acres. And as best as we can tell, approximately 6,000 jobs have been or will be created through these grants. So again, give them a hand for that, showing that it can be environmentally protected while still strengthening your economy. And something that's near and dear to me, many of you know that I spent about 20 years in the criminal justice realm as a prosecutor. This effort has also helped reduce crime in some of these communities as well. And I think we've been told that we've seen as much as a 62.8% reduction in crime since 2003, with 8 consecutive years of double-digit decline. Now that's amazing. That's amazing. That lets you show again that the benefits of funds like these really have no bounds. It is driven by the commitment and the will of those that want to see the best and use the money wisely. So again, we commend Tampa on its exemplary record, on its partnerships, and willingness to reach out to the communities. Let me talk just for a minute about some of our multi-purpose grants. And so I'm really happy here today because that is where the big money is going to come. And that's what Tampa will be getting today, a multi-purpose pilot grant in the amount of $400,000. These grants have been under development for several years. We had heard from stakeholders, and one of the things that they wanted most was flexibility in conducting both the assessment and the cleanup activities at a site without having to wait for a new grant cycle. I mean, you know and understand when you get an assessment, you've got your partners energized, you've got the vision in mind of what you want to see, and then you've got to wait another year or more in order to get the funding to do the cleanup. And so we've synthesized that process, made it shorter. And so for the first time, grantees will now be able to utilize these pilot grants to move seamlessly from assessment to cleanup and redevelopment. And really what that means is they're going to be able to get quicker results on the ground for the communities that they serve. Tampa is only one of 9 communities across the country that receive these special grants. And so we're, again, very glad about that, and you'll hear a little bit more about their plans for the money in a minute. Let me move to talk a little bit about the ARC grants. And those of you who were at EPA or know federal government, EPA is kind of alphabet soup. So ARC stands for Assessment, Revolving Loan, and Cleanup Grants. And in May of this year, EPA announced more than $59 million in new federal investments around the country. There were 26 communities that will be receiving $10 million to supplement their existing revolving loan fund grants to clean up more contaminated sites and ready them for beneficial redevelopment. Since 1994, we've used 94 grants in Florida, totaling about $30 million to be able to clean up contaminated properties across this state and to provide for job training. 3 Florida communities will be receiving funds pursuant to this grant for a total of $1.1 million for this grant cycle. We had an event earlier today in Orlando, and so now we're happy to be here and celebrate with the City of Brooksville. So they will be receiving another $400,000 check for these ARC grants. And I'm going to let you hear more about what that money is going to go to correct very shortly. But in closing, EPA is really looking forward to beginning new partnerships, continuing others with both of these cities, because we recognize that when you make these investments in communities, when you make them in these blighted properties, you're really investing in the people themselves. And you're making sure that they're healthy, that they're able to provide for their families economically, that they are vital. These communities have a vitality and a sustainability that will probably reach limits beyond what we ever imagined. And so we at EPA are glad to be a part of that process. Congratulations again, and please know if there's anything you need, just give us a call. Thank you.
We are pleased this afternoon to have our neighbor from the north, the Brooksville City Manager, Janine Norman-Vacha. Please.
Thank you. It's quite an honor to be here with the City of Tampa. We're certainly a small city just to the north of Tampa. First of all, thank you EPA for believing in us, and this is our first EPA grant. We look forward to a continued and long building partnership because just as you said, it's not about taking one step or looking at one thing. It's a building, and it can take many years to build sustainability and really revitalize our communities. For the City of Brooksville, this will mean that we are able to begin having meaningful conversation in our community about brownfields and what brownfields are and what they are not. I think there's a lot of misgiven and sometimes a lot of stigmatism that's connected to properties that maybe historically have been perceived as not being the best for revitalization. Interestingly enough, the Council for Urban and Economic Development has said that for every dollar that federal, state, and local governments spend on brownfield cleanup, there is a $2.48 investment from the private sector. I think that's significant. And for a small town like Brooksville, it can mean the world to us, and certainly a change for our city and a change in areas and neighborhoods that we believe are in the most need for jobs, revitalization, building back possibly businesses that used to sustain their community, and certainly strengthening our entire residents and community. We thank you for the opportunity. We know we'll make you a proud partner, and we look forward to many years of working together.
Please join me as a round of applause as I present the City of Brooksville their check.
The Mayor of Tampa, Bob Buckhorn.
I've decided I'm going to perhaps make a contribution to the City of Brooksville so you can get some real cameras. Yeah, the poor folks from Brooksville have their little itty-bitty cameras, and so we'll take some pictures so you look particularly glowing with a real camera. So to all of you, thank you, and to the administrator, thank you. I just got back from Washington, D.C. about an hour ago, where we were up there talking to the Obama administration about the KC-46s at MacDill Air Force Base. We were talking to them about the Riverwalk, the completion of the Riverwalk. And I can't tell you what a great friend this administration has been to this city and been to mayors all over the country. And we couldn't do it without their investment in infrastructure. And they get it. They understand very clearly that, as you heard, an investment in something like a brownfield grant pays dividends far beyond the small amounts that they give. In the long run, this $400,000 could translate to tens of millions of dollars in economic impact and additional property tax revenue to the city of Tampa, but it starts here. You know, I'm reminded as I look at Chloe Coney and I see Jerome Ryan over here and I see Leroy Moore from the Housing Authority of what used to be across the street. Now, understand this is my third tour of duty at City Hall. And from 1987 until probably I left office in 2003, the amount of time that I spent chasing drug dealers through that project, chasing crooks through that project, seeing the despair and the hopelessness of the hundreds of families that live there, never expecting that they would ever get out, never realizing that perhaps somehow, some way, somewhere down the road, that there was a different life for them. And to see now that site cleared, and like Chloe Coney used to talk about, and the biblical story of Nehemiah, where the walls were torn down, but brick by brick, they rebuilt the walls and rebuilt the city. And so what you see across the street, and what you see by extension on the site that the EPA is going to help us with, is the beginning of the rebuilding of those walls. It is the brick by brick process by which we go to not only restore lives, Jerome, and restore hope, but to restore our city. And you heard the administrator talk about environmental justice. That is absolutely correct. Because for decades, certainly in our communities of color, the only uses that they had were industrial uses that left a legacy of toxins and poisons. And these EPA grants that allow us to go out there and identify the extent of the problem and mitigate it and get these properties back to productive uses is awfully, awfully important to cities and to mayors and to this community. So to your immediate boss, but your big boss, the President of the United States, once again, I am happy to say that this president and this administration has been a great friend to mayors and cities, and we thank you for that. And we look forward to continuing this long-term partnership that we've had with you. It really has been a good partnership, and you heard the numbers. These grants that EPA has made to us over the years, we have multiplied tenfold and into real productive uses and real jobs and changing real lives. So they get it. We're appreciative. Let's do more. Thank you.
Let's have another round of applause as I present the City of Tampa with its $400,000 Brownfields grant.